I'm Billy S, welcome back to the channel. Today we're tackling a smaller topic than usual as I rank my top 10 Dark Souls boss arenas. Because we love the bosses themselves in Soulsborne, but sometimes a really aesthetically pleasing arena, or an arena with a nice layout and gameplay focus, can really open things up for the player. If this is interesting to you guys, please let me know. I would love to cover the other games and their arenas. I have a lot of thoughts. Today though, we are just focusing on Dark Souls, which is a game that really leaned into having vastly different arena designs and layouts compared to later titles, for better or for worse. They are iconic though. And while this is a best of list, I could make a top 10 worst Dark Souls boss arenas pretty easily. Honourable mentions go to Manus, Father of the Abyss, and the Sanctuary Guardian arenas. I really do like them, just not enough to put them in my top 10. So be sure to parry that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my future videos, and let's jump right in. My top 10 Dark Souls boss arenas. Let me know your favourites down below. At number 10, we have the Taurus Demon Arena. Dark Souls really starts you off with some very complicated arena designs that aren't the norm in the series, and no better is this exemplified than the Taurus Demon Arena. Instead of a large open space, you're on top of a giant wall. It's like something out of Attack on Titan, where you have such little space to move while this hulking behemoth lunges at you from the other side. You're forced to play this game of tug of war, finding the briefest of openings to slip past the demon, lest you get pinned to either side of the arena. Unless you have some arena awareness and you notice the ladder leading upwards behind the entrance. Here you can climb up to a more traditional circular battlement, kill 2 enemies and their dastardly crossbows, and allow the fight to happen here. Taurus Demon forces you to think, and forces you to adapt to a situation that you might not be familiar with, especially if you're coming from Dark Souls 3 or Elden Ring, where just about every arena is open and massive. But unlike a Capra Demon, whose arena size became a hindrance, or Moonlight Butterfly, who also does the rectangular thin arena but just isn't as fun, it's balanced really well here with the Taurus Demon. There are only a handful of spots where it's possible to roll off the sides of the battlement, so dying to gravity isn't as likely as dying to a giant hammer. I really like the visual of fighting atop a battlement. It's so Lord of the Rings, very medieval, and gives this energy that these demons can appear anywhere, not just in preordained giant open areas. That's something Dark Souls does inherently well. At number 9, we have the Bell Gargoyles Arena, which is here for similar reasons to the Taurus Demon in our previous entry. We're still so early in the game that they can afford to mess around with arena layouts in fun and interesting ways. Here we have a much larger playable area, a sloped church rooftop, except now there are no railings to stop you from plunging to your death if you roll one too many times towards the edge of the tiling. This is the game's way of upping the ante after the Taurus Demon Arena, taking away the training wheels and saying, use your arena awareness and figure this out. There's also the aesthetic fact that you can see this arena as you explore. It's a rooftop. Unlike a lot of boss arenas where you go through hallways or they're deep underground, I have a real soft spot for when you can see a boss arena during the level in some way. It just feels very cozy, very connected, and is the perfect length for your first gank fight. You have just enough space to run away from boss attacks, but not enough that you're guaranteed a chance to relax. And as I discovered in my randomizer run, you can actually hide around the corners of the bell tower, which I used to great effect there because the bosses I was fighting damaged each other while trying to reach me. You don't want to fight Centipede Demon and Sif on a roof, it's hell. No idea how it fares against the regular gargoyles, but it is a nice little corner where you can't fall off the edge, though you also back yourself into a corner with no way out, so it's a double-edged sword. That and the view of the world of Lordran from this arena is stunning. At number 8, we have Dark Sun Gwyndolin's arena, which takes originality to an entirely new level. Gwendolyn is a master of illusions, able to breathe life into Anor Londo that isn't actually there, an entire false light that turns out to be a dark sun. When you face him, he uses a series of magical projectiles and knives, preferring to fight from range, but unlike many bosses in the series, he's able to create a near infinite amount of distance through his illusions. He expands the hallway leading to Gwyn's tomb, making his arena a near endless path that you have to constantly chase him down while avoiding his attacks. The arena being an endless hallway works in the context of his lore, while also nicely complementing his battle abilities. Gwendolyn is like paper, he'll crumple under a few hits, especially if you wait until the end game to fight him, so while you can make the complaint that this area allows him to endlessly run away, the reality is that the fight never lasts long enough for that to be a problem. Though, given Gwendolyn's on the side of prolonging the Age of Fire and procrastinating finding a true solution to the fading flame, perhaps an endless hallway he can run away through is more fitting to his character overall, until he hits the wall at the end and has to face the music, of course. At number 7, we have the Great Grey Wolf Sif Arena, which is another location I just love from an aesthetic point of view, and also because it tells a really sad story. Sif's arena is the current grave of Artorias, which was moved from the Colosseum in the DLC to the spot of Ulaseel's sanctuary, likely a decision made by Dusk to honor the knight that tried to save her home. When we arrive in present day, the clearing is vast, yet littered with the swords and weapons of various warriors past. It's clear the grave of Artorias is valuable, as it contains his ring, the Covenant of Artorias, which allows whoever wields it to traverse the abyss. Because of this, Sif fights off all who would dare to take this power. They don't want to see anyone else fall prey to the abyss like their master, and the swords of those who tried to best the wolf remain as a warning to the chosen undead. Set to the gorgeous nightly backdrop of Darkroot Garden, I just think the cooler color palette really helps Sif to pop during the fight with the bright fur, and the massive gravestone in the center of the arena elevates this place from being just a simple clearing. I love a good boss in a field of flowers, one of my favorite tropes. Metal Gear Solid 3's the boss, Gehrman in Bloodborne, Ishin in Sekiro, Melania in Elden Ring, technically Bale in Elden Ring. It's a trope I just don't get bored of. Though because the arena is mostly here for aesthetic, it's on the lower half of today's ranking. At number 6, we have Pinwheel's Arena, found in the depths of the catacombs. Of all the aesthetic arenas, I truly think Pinwheel has the most striking of the lot, because his arena spells out his story while also providing a great ambiance for the 2 seconds you're fighting the boss. This creature is a necromancer who stole the rite of kindling to bring back his dead family members, only for them all to be fused into one being. You can see the experiments that Pinwheel has done with the hanging skeletons from the ceiling that ominously watch over the fight. He loiters by a desk where he pores over tomes and countless books that litter the arena. This is a man who has been consumed by his research in an attempt to fix the mistakes that he made that led to this point. But being at the bottom of the catacombs and placed in a giant coffin, there's this creepy atmosphere that is only heightened by Pinwheel's own appearance with the creepy masks, the odd voices, and the hanging lanterns from his body. It may be a simple rectangular room, but it provides enough space to battle Pinwheel while feeling different and unique compared to the other bosses in the game. You even have a little pool of water in the center because if there is one thing that Pinwheel cares about, it's his wiki feet score. Those dogs are clean as a whistle. I think setting up a boss in a literal coffin is just such an inspired move. I fucking love Miyazaki, man. At number 5, we have Knight Artorias' arena, which, while not the most groundbreaking in the series, really works for this specific fight. It is a large circular play space which gives you ample room to move about and take on this massive threat. I love that once you enter, the blood splatter of the dead regular enemy that he throws at you remains, a reminder of that incredibly epic entrance from Artie. But what I really love is that while the gameplay is simple here, it's by design. You're standing in an ancient coliseum, a place where people would do battle against one another for entertainment and sport. Knight Artorias is such a deified legend in the land of Lordran that when we finally get the chance to fight him, he deserves no less than an honorable duel. He may be lost to the Abyss, but his sword skills haven't waned and he fights you with all his might without needing any trickery to confuse the player, which makes the Colosseum arena setting feel all the more apt, and even ties into this DLC adding dedicated PvP arenas into the game. It's a very fitting boss arena for the end of Knight Artorias, and likely set a blueprint for From Software that they followed with many major important bosses moving forwards. At number 4, we have Crossbreed Priscilla's Arena at the end of the Painted World of Ariamis. Straight away, Priscilla's Arena is so iconic to the series that it was brought back and used as a set piece in Dark Souls 3, as you can parkour down some routes to face a Pyromancer invasion, and right below it is the arena for the champions Gravetender and Great Wolf. But going back to Dark Souls, it is fitting that Priscilla stands on the edge of the world, isolated from the rest of the Painted World structures as she wishes to be left alone, just as the rest of the creatures there also wish for isolation. It's a smaller arena than that of Artorias, and for some, they won't even realize it's a boss arena. But when that fight starts, the blizzard hits and Priscilla vanishes, the true nature of this place sticks out. On the floor is a thin coating of snow, and I love that in order to find Priscilla when she's invisible and ultimately defeat her, you need to look at the snow so you can spot Priscilla's footprints as she approaches you. This is one of the only times in the series where I can recall the arena actually playing a vital part in the gameplay here. I also am just a general fan of colder color palettes, which this arena certainly fills that niche, and you even get a nice interdimensional diving board on the far side. I think she just wanted you out of the arena because it's prime real estate for winter lovers. At number 3, we have Ornstein and Smo's Arena, the central room of the Great Cathedral of Anor Londo. This might just be the most iconic boss arena in the series, as Ornstein and Smo are arguably the most well-known boss fight in Soulsborne, and they're in one of the most well-known areas in the franchise. Their difficulty and legend has transcended for new players. Yet their boss arena is both grand and beautiful from an aesthetic point of view, while also having a solid gameplay function that I have talked about a couple times on the channel. Aesthetically, we have these grand windows allowing golden sunlight to bathe the giant hall. On the lower level, Smo awaits at the very center, while Ornstein hops down from the upper balcony. You could imagine when this place was alive and bustling, people were praying in the main hall while royalty looked on from above. Ornate pillars line the hall, leading to the alcoves at the back, where 3 statues should be placed. Gwyn in the center, Lord of Sunlight, Guinevere on the right, Daughter of Sunlight, but on the left, the plinth is empty, for Gwyn's firstborn was purged from the entirety of Anor Londo, the Son of Sunlight erased from history. It's a really nice touch. Gameplay-wise, I can't not talk about the pillars, which act as fantastic barriers for keeping Ornstein and Smo separated as you dodge their attacks and figure out who to kill. They're not foolproof. Ornstein can zoom past a pillar like nobody's business, and with Smo, you do have to have his attacks line up perfectly to ram the pillar, but I find them to be great at keeping the duo at bay more often than not. This arena was so famous, so popular, that it was reused in Dark Souls 3, and when I reach that game, let's be real, I will be talking about this arena again. At number 2, we have the Four Kings Arena, also known as the Abyss. Perhaps it's a little contradictory for me that I have an arena that is purely pitch black with no defining features beyond its aesthetic in my number 2 spot, but then I think the Abyss is such a defining aesthetic that it loops around from being this simple design to being fucking ballsy. To even fight here, you need to equip the Covenant of Artorias, which allows you to survive the fall into the boss arena. Thus, there is a gameplay purpose, forcing you to give up one of your 2 ring slots. Then the fight begins and one of the 4 kings appears. What I love during the fight is that the kings often appear very far away, and because there are no features to this inky void, your depth perception gets distorted. The bosses can feel further away than they actually are, while sometimes you can get snuck up on by a second boss spawning in from behind. The only things that live here are the corrupted and the primordial, with Karth running his dark wraiths from the bonfire. I knew going into this video I only wanted to focus on one Abyss arena, which meant I was making the Four Kings and Manus fight for a spot in this video. And while I love Manus's burial ground and the wall of fire that surrounds his arena, I had to give it to the iconic original Abyss, where you can see nothing, feel nothing, and sometimes fall out of the arena into an even scarier Abyss, where the world drops into nothingness and a lot of blue. At number 1, we have Gwyn, Lord of Cinder's arena, the central point of the kiln of the First Flame. Perhaps one of my favourite areas from Dark Souls from a pure aesthetic perspective, the fading greys of the kiln and the absolutely massive expanse it takes up in the world really lends credence to this being an important place. Everything is coated in ash, implying that the First Flame here has been burning for a millennia. You're not the first, nor will you be the last undead to link this fire should you attempt it. And as you look into the boss arena, I love that it's just grey and dreary, with the only flame here being that of Gwyn and his sword. He's just one man, unable to keep the fire going, his embers beginning to die off. You can see the kiln hasn't been used in so long with how decrepit and lifeless it all looks, and realizing that Gwyn's lack of fire is because he just isn't good kindling is a really cool moment. I love just walking around this arena after killing Gwyn so that I can really take in the ambiance and the aura of this place. After all, you're making your final choice, whether your chosen undead will become the fire that keeps the world alive or leave and allow darkness to encroach. Gameplay-wise, the arena is vast, but there's no way to really escape Gwyn. He is aggressive, he is strong, and this is still his domain. Or more accurately, his prison. The Kiln of the First Flame is just a real summation of Dark Souls, and how important the story was to each arena, something FromSoft would carry with them across all the Miyazaki-directed games moving forwards. And that's my list. Which Dark Souls arenas are your favourite? Let me know down below, and be sure to parry that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all my future videos. I want to give a massive shout out to my YouTube channel members for supporting me for another month. You guys are amazing, thank you so much. You get early access to certain videos, you get a shout out in the description and at the end of videos as well, and you get access to special Let's Plays. It's really nice. So I'll see you guys next time for another video. Adios.